This is an interview with Mr. and Mrs. Marland West of Holdenville, Oklahoma. This interview is by Herbert Friend.
Out the historical building, what they call the archives, the old records.
Yeah.
And I got hold of some records there, I'll just read one to you, one little thing I picked upstairs, see if you remember it. You didn't know Reverend Cronk, Methodist preacher here. He was in here, and you were down there, and I guess you didn't.
Well, I tell you, we know some preachers come down there that come up here, but
Haygood.
Yeah, Haygood.
Did.
He lived we lived right just down the lane from him.
Yeah. Well, Cronk preached the first sermon in Holdenville in the depot.
Well, I see. We didn't come to Holdenville much then.
Yeah.
And I don't remember whether he was ever over there or not.
Here's a fellow that I thought I had it there. His name was Lindley. He lived at Leader, he said. And he said the railroad came through and it changed the name to Atwood.
Yeah.
He's a little confused, isn't he?
How's that?
He's a little confused, isn't he?
No?
Leader?
Well, now, there's Newburgh changed to Atwood.
Yeah.
I was thinking you meant Newburgh over there.
Yeah. No, he said
See, Leader's...
he lived at Leader and they changed it.
The Leader Schoolhouse is about 2.5 miles up west of Atwood.
Yeah, I know, I've been there.
Southwest.
Yeah, I know. That's a voting precinct in there was. I guess they've changed it now. He is, this fellow's name was Lindley, L-I-N-D-L, no, that's a Ball. This fellow's name here is Ball. Edward F. Ball.
Well, we didn't know much about... I tell you, we got our first post office was up there at Leader. There's Leader Post Office.
Yeah.
And on the Scales Prairie. Scales place there.
Scales was postmaster too, wasn't he?
Yeah.
To begin with,
Yeah,
anyway.
I guess he was.
Yeah,
I was just 18 months old when we come here.
Yeah. I got that off the
Yeah. He was our post office till old man Holman put in back northeast of Atwood, north 1 mile and back east. In there, Jelly Wilkerson's place, you know where Earlene Wilkerson, Marvin Wilkerson lives. Comes
northeast of Atwood?
Yeah, come to the church up there, the Nazarene Church, and turn east 1 mile.
Was the post office back in there?
Yeah, the post office started right there. Old man Holman, you knew Bill Aycock, did he? Matt Aycock.
Yeah.
She's
auctioneer.
Yeah. She is first postmistress.
At that place?
Uh-huh.
Well, what was it called? What's the name of it?
Newburgh.
Newburgh Post Office.
That's when.
Was just a mile back?
Well, it's a mile north of Atwood and a mile east.
Yeah.
Hardly a mile, but it's in that section. Then
I see.
Nearly over the section.
Yeah, there was a Newburgh. There was a Newburgh Post. I've got that.
Well, now he built little. Oh, I can't remember now just how big it was. Just a small little store out there in his yard for post office on the old W.A. James place over there. And Matt was postmistress, and he run a little store with it, I think.
Yeah.
Had some stuff.
Usually that's the way those country stores did.
Yeah.
This fellow was living at Leader instead of changed it to Atwood. That'd been in about 95, when there, 1907.
No, 1910 or 11.
Yeah.
When the
well, I don't know what time. I don't have a date. There wasn't a date on this. And he said that his daddy went in the hog cattle business with Mr. Atwood. Said Mr. Atwood married an Indian woman.
Yeah.
This is
full-blood Indian.
Yeah. He said he hunted and killed wild hogs. You remember wild hogs in there?
I don't remember that.
in the vicinity of Calvin and in that
Yeah.
area.
In them hills. In
Yeah.
Yeah.
They sold them to people that they kill them and dress them. The average killing about 300 a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, Atwood, there's the old man Atwood. And said they sold the bacon 5 cents a pound. Hickory smoke, they'd
Yeah.
smoke it. But they got a lot more for the shoulder. They got 6 cents a pound for it. I mean the ham. They got 6 cents a pound for the ham. That's notes off of that fellow. Then they moved to Calvin. They worked on the railroad bridge at Calvin.
My daddy worked on the bridge. Well, he didn't work on the bridge. He worked his team on the riprap that fixed the bank of the river back
Yeah.
West of the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
He worked on that.
This fellow Ball moved to Holdenville, he said, and put in the business over here and ran the first free delivery wagon out of stores. Free delivery.
Let's see.
Edward F. Ball.
I can't remember. We didn't come over here much to the bridges here.
Yeah.
Too much. We used to come that way. I mean, Holdenville. My daddy when old man Mike Chan run the hardware where the gas office is.
Yeah.
And when Holdenville first started, and we come to Holdenville, Papa bought a disc cultivator and a cook stove from that day. We hauled it back to Newburgh then.
That's when they first came to Holdenville.
When Holdenville started, yeah.
Well, do you remember how many stores do you suppose there were here then?
I can't remember. I think probably that's the only place we went, you know.
Yeah.
Laid off much. But his store was right there, and I was with him. Of course, we all come in the wagon then, you know, whole
Yeah.
family.
Well, what did you cross on a ferry?
Uh-huh.
Grayson Ferry? Do you remember?
The which?
What was the
Oh,
name?
the Grayson Crossing, yeah.
Well, now was the Grayson Ferry about where the bridge is now in there?
Well, now, I think the Grayson Crossing was near the mouth of Little River. They run it up there a while, I think. Best I can remember, I'm pretty sure they did. And then they moved it. If they moved it, now I can't remember just whether. Now we used to ford it up there. I don't believe I believe that I'm wrong about that. I believe that we forded it up there because we had some horses. You know, one old half-blind horse that jumped over a big bank in that swollen river, you know, and we just forded it up there. And Robertson. Let's see, what was his name? Hurley? No?
Hurley Roberts?
Yeah, Roberts. His son lives here in town.
Yeah, Homer Roberts. The blacksmith? Or the
No.
welder?
No, it was Robertson.
Robertson?
It lived on Little River. Wasn't it Robertson?
Robinson.
Yeah, Robinson.
Robinson.
Yeah. Well, he run that ferry right about where the bridge is now.
He did?
Mm-hmm. There's, on this side of the river, there's a big patch. He lived there, had a house there. Pretty big patch, and we went around between that and the river when we get off the ferry. Come right.
I knew him before he died.
Yeah.
Yeah, Robinson. Well, who was Grayson? Was he?
Wes Grayson lived down here?
Well, he was Grayson Ferry.
Oh. Well, I don't know about that. Wasn't that just the ferry up there?
Yeah.
I mean, not the ferry, but just the crossing.
Grayson Crossing.
we call it. Right close
Well, I've
to
got the name Grayson Ferry picked up.
Well, now, I wouldn't be too sure that they didn't have a ferry there, but I can't remember the ferry. They forded it, you know, just dive off into it. And
You don't remember the ferry then? Ferry?
I
Ferryboat?
don't remember whether there's a ferry up at the upper.
Oh, there was one down below.
Yeah, where
Yeah.
the bridge is. Mhm.
Well, there was, I read that 2 or 3 times in the paper here, back before statehood, these people here in town trying to get Holdenville to grow, and people in here, you know, and they advertise and sit papers back east and all, and wrote back, and getting people to come out here. They was working on people south of the river, getting them over here to Holdenville to trade.
Yeah.
And that was one of the deals to get them across that river.
Yeah.
And I had somebody was making a flat boat. He said, and they described it as having a deck on each end, run up on the bank. And
That's that ferry.
I guess it was.
Yeah. Yeah, they'd raise the. You see, you drive in here, and it had an apron and let down.
Yeah.
That's down on the sandbar. But you team pull your wagon up on. And this apron, they'd put it up. Have apron each end.
That's what the papers. They were building that, and I don't know what year it was, way back there, close to
Well,
1900.
I just wouldn't know just what.
And
year it
the city of Holdenville gave people a ticket to, if they brought cotton to Holdenville, they got a free pass on the ferry.
was. Well, I don't remember us ever bringing cotton to Holdenville. We carried the cattle most of the time. Till Atwood had a gin. Well, Newburgh used to have gin a long time. Yeah, Newburgh had gin when I was quite young. And then had 2 gins at Atwood.
One thing I'm weak on down in that part of the country, and about everywhere, but I've got more on it up on this side than I have down there. I'll probably get some when I get started in on the archives. But do you remember back then, you were there, you were, in 1900, you were up in school, weren't you? Going to school.
In 1900, yes, just a little at Newburgh before we went. We moved on Gibbons's Ranch, east of Gertie. And then I went to school at Gertie, and then next year we bought a home in Gertie, moved into Gertie.
Yeah.
And we was at Gertie 2 years.
Well, do you remember, were there very many Indians in there?
And around Gertie?
Yeah, Atwood and Gertie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, quite a few.
Choctaw Indians.
Let's see, there's Herbert Harrison, his family down there, and Sloan Love and his family.
Well, I heard that out south of Gertie a ways, is there this fellow, Russell, is it Russell that lives down there toward Non, west of Non?
I don't know whether I know him or not.
Pauline Messenger, his daughter. Leon Russell run a store.
There at Non?
No, he ran a store here.
Oh.
Well, there's a Russell. I'm pretty sure that's his name, but anyway, he's an old-timer in there, and he's still living in there. It's on the road you go to Colgate. You turn left to Non, you remember?
Mm-hmm.
Well, instead of turning to Non, turn back to the right. Just a little ways in there is where he lives.
Yeah.
And back
Yeah.
in behind him, there's supposed to have been an Indian village. Do you remember anything like that?
No. See, we didn't go back that way much. We always lived north of Atwood. My daddy, his first lease is the end of Atwood, the street of Atwood there, into the street where he started Calvin on that Blackland farm.
Yeah.
That was his first farm in 1893. Cleared that up and built a house and cut rails and built a fence around it. And you got a 5-year lease. That is yours for 5 years.
Yeah.
And then the Indian, Sparks, John Sparks' wife allotted it as her allotment. She's Indian. And
Well, do you recall about the schools? Where did these Indians go to school?
first I remember going to school with the Indian was Gertie base where the rest of us.
With the white school?
Yeah. There's gullies and there's several Frenchmen's is all out there, you know, and
Well, now, beginning
all
about
the Indians around there.
beginning about 1900, they put Indians and whites, and the government came in and financed the schools. But up until about then, there weren't no schools for whites.
I don't remember ever. I went. There wasn't any Indians right around us at Newburgh. We had there's what they call Red Mud Church or school, just a log pen with the split logs in it, you know, just with a red mud daubed it with, you know, stop the wind out. And that is right there by the Newburgh post office. That's the first school I went to. You wouldn't know him. Anyway, Bill Aycock's sister. It was her husband that taught there.
Oh. Well, what was his name?
Joe Reynolds.
Joe Reynolds was taught at the Newburgh, the old Newburgh.
Yeah.
Now, out there where Kate's
Yeah.
lives was a school. Do you remember
Yeah,
that?
well, that's, I believe they call that the Shepherd School. My wife went to school. She's got her picture in that school.
And did she have a picture of the school?
Yeah, let's see. I believe she cut out of the paper.
Now, the Kates have one out of the paper, too.
Yeah, we seen that, and that's right. Maybe she hasn't got one.
Well, I was wondering, though, maybe she had a picture itself.
Well, I don't know whether we got there just seen the paper. I believe they just brought it down and let us see the paper. And she was in there somewhere in that school.
Well, now
That was
these, you don't remember seeing any Indian village of any sort, Indian town?
No, I don't. I don't remember that.
Well, we
I've
didn't
got a-
have any Indian towns up here.
I've got an Indian. Judge Busby got up he made some research on the Indians between Atwood and Allen and all up in there, you know, and Ada. And I've got a little history of that.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I read one thing that
He tells about the villages. He said in that book that the Shawnees is first in here, you see.
Shawnee and
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the 5 civilized tribes before
Yeah.
they put the Shawnees out. I believe the Shawnee. And he said that their villages reached from Atwood, where Atwood is now, to Ada, this side of Ada, and round and taking in Citry and Non,
Yeah.
all
Oh,
in
that
there.
country.
And they call that the village. But it's just he said they just back up in a thicket, you know, in a secluded place. There's Indian huts all around like that, you know, and tents. And they call that the
Shawnee town.
Shawnee Town.
Mm-hmm.
And the Shawnee Town, you see, is right on the highway up, the marker right up the other side of Atwood there, between there and Busby Ranch up there.
Do you recall where the Indians went to church? Did they have churches?
Well, I don't remember.
Is anything different from the white?
I don't remember.
No, here the Indians have churches.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
7 or 8 of them up north.
I don't remember an Indian church over there. There wasn't enough there's just Choctaws in our community, you know.
Yeah.
And they went to church with the rest of us.
Did you have any Negroes in your area?
No, never one stayed all night in there. From the time we went there, there's one come in there, had done something and come in there and stayed at the bottom down there one night. Somewhere he lay out there, looked for him. They never let the sun go down on the other side.
Justin made a report there at the church and I had supper.
$20 left.
Gave him back $20, so it partially cost $4,300. But there's all cost proposition. Nobody made a nickel out of it. We down wasn't going to let them make anything.
We've got it. Now, what was that? We Charty Indian town? Yeah,
I see.
yeah. But where did the name We Charty come from?
My father gave it that name. Now, it meant running water or something in Indian.
Yeah. Well,
But the railroad people, they wouldn't have it. They would call it We Charty. No, that's Bilby. And they put the name Bilby on the railroad station. They did. So,
well, you had a post office there called We Charty.
yeah, that's We Charty.
Yeah.
That's when they brought the mail out. Then when they...
Well, was that mail, was that in your dad's store?
Before they started bringing the mail in there, then when we discontinued the post office is when they started the rural delivery.
And became Bilby.
And,
That is, there.
well, no,
Post
what
office.
you do, it would have been a good one for believe it or not. Now, if you voted at Glory Precinct. If you paid your taxes, it was Jacobs Township.
Yeah.
And then if you wrote a letter, you wrote it to Holdenville, RFD 3. If you telephoned, you call Holdenville, and it's all the same place.
Yeah.
And
Well-
if you bought a railroad ticket, you bought it to Bilby. All the same town.
Now, during this time, your dad had had cotton gin,
Yes,
had
and a mill.
press.
Oil press. He had
And-
4 of those Anderson, what they call expellers. I remember very well and very distinctly because we discontinued the gin and the oil mill business, and he had a chance to sell these big expellers. The war came on, and the First World War I. And he got a wire on some outfit wanting to buy them. They looked up in the factory wherever they were, and they gave him $10,000 for those 4 expellers, and that was more than he paid for them. But the deal was he had to load them on the express car, closed, and nobody had any trucks or anything then, so he got this fellow Lewis that had some big teams. He moved houses and some too, and my brother and I helped him. They cribbed up under there, and we helped move those Anderson expellers. They're awfully heavy. He skidded them out with those teams and loaded them on the truck, and then had an express car up there on the siding and pulled them in that express car.
Mhm.
And they went to Honolulu.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they were making peanut oil or something over there, or cotton, pressing something. Honolulu, that's where they went to. My father told him, said, all right, I'm going to sell them, wire them, but I want the money, or money in the bank here. He wasn't going to all that expense and everything without, he knew he was showing up for sale.
Yeah.
And
You said Gloria Precinct.
yeah, now that, yes, now this, the Glory, Glory, G-L-O-R-Y, Glory.
Glory.
That's a cemetery up there. They call it Glory Cemetery now.
And a Methodist cemetery.
Yes.
And they deeded it to an association a few years ago.
Father gave him the land. And I think 5 acres or 10 acres right in the corner of Section 4 there, which is part of that Jesse Todd allotment. And, well, he gave them the land, and they surveyed it. Well, first, no, they laid it off in burial lots. And first thing you knew, they were just burying every which way in there. Lord, and he said, now we can't have that. Said, so then he hired a surveyor to come down there and stake them and survey it into actual lots, and said, now let's keep it this way. He drove big stakes and some regular cemetery lots there. Said, I don't, but you can't have just one here in every direction and all that, so it's getting to be a mess.
Now, was there a church there at that cemetery?
Yes, had a little church. That's you used to have what revivals up there.
There was
And
a
then later, church burned. Heavy grass in the fall burned, and they got church on fire and burned down. That's what's
Or
called.
do you remember Union Chapel?
They had a little chapel there after that church burned,
That's next to near the cemetery.
right there by the cemetery. That's where after the church burned, they had a little chapel out there.
You know why they call the cemetery Gloria? Glory?
No, I don't, but that's it's on record. It's called Glory, G-L-O-R-Y,
Yeah.
Glory
Yeah.
Cemetery. Glory and
Well, long-
Jacob Township and Glory Precinct.
Along 19, 2, and
Now
3.
you're voting precinct. When you voted at Glory Precinct.
Glory. Right.
Yes.
There is a Gloria too. Somewhere it used to be, and it's not now.
Yeah.
It's consolidated.
They
It's out here, back out in this direction.
yeah.
somewhere.
Well, this is Glory, G-L-O-R-Y. I don't
Yeah.
know where that got the name of Glory.
Well,
Uh,
This thing came in. There used to be somebody down there who would write little news from Union Chapel, news to the paper, and they'd print them, you know.
Yeah.
And they'd mention this fellow Alls, A-L-L-S, name was in there, remember?
Yes.
And they spoke of Union Chapel, and
Yeah.
the people down there came into Holdenville, business people, solicited money to build them a school. They got them a school started there at Union Chapel.
They did have a school up there to start with. And then they built the brick school over after my father's home. They
That
gave
built-
that land.
That was Bilby.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just east of our home.
Well, was this other school in operation when that was built?
Yes, for several years. And then, of course, that was abandoned. And when they built the new brick school, two-room school over there just east of our house, they gave
That
them that
takes care of that.
5 acres and deeded it to them.
Now, there's another thing that I haven't been able to move on, and that's a post office called Timber, Timber. Now, in these news, this lady writing the news spoke of Mr. Timberley's post office, Timberley. And yet there's
Well,
Timber, and now the reason I know it's in this area is because they discontinued this post office and sent the mail to Weecharty.
And I don't remember anything there. They did have a post office in the old store building, just on the east side of the tracks where it's been torn down.
That your dad's
my father
building?
had a store there and a post office. We called him Uncle Lou. He was a distant relative of ours. He run the store and that post office. Uncle Lou Young.
Checking the tape, I've got quite a bit.
And yeah, Uncle Lou ran that store and the post office there. And but I don't remember any Timberley.
But it was called then Weecharty?
Yes, they called it Weecharty. And then when the rural delivery came in, why they abandoned that post office.
Well,
Just kind of well, it's a nuisance, but you had to get mail, see.
Was there any store or anything like that up around this old Union Chapel place?
No, other than this fellow Alls, then had the store just east of the railroad track, a little wooden store building, a little small store there along that time.
Well,
and then when my father bought that Jesse Todd land, why, of course, he had to abandon that store, give it up.
do you remember the name Timberley?
No Timberley at all.
Well, I saw the name Timberley on another occasion, not connected with the post office.
I don't remember.
Well, there's another post office I wonder if you'd heard about, and that's Arnold, A-R-N-O-L-D. And when it was discontinued back in 1907 or thereabout, the mail was sent then to Weecharty. So it's in that area somewhere.
I don't remember that.
Arnold,
No,
Timber.
don't remember that.
Then where is Sand Switch?
Well, I don't know. Saying we had Algo switch down
Agua?
there. You know Algo right on down from us to
From
them.
Bilby.
Yeah, just on around there towards Calvin, Algo. And a lot of people call it Hogwater, but it's Algo.
Well, I wonder, it might have been when they first put it in, they might have called it Sand Switch and the name
might
was
have.
changed.
But it was
Probably
a
where-
switch.
It was the only one between Bilby and
Calvin.
Calvin, so that's
Yeah.
probably it.
That's probably it there.
Sand Switch. I know they, in 1901 or 2, whichever it was reading along, and the health problem came up. And smallpox broke out here in town. They had a railroad crew here in these cars, you know, like bridge crews.
Yeah.
And they moved them down to Sand Switch, get out away from Holdenville.
Well, I think
Smallpox.
that's what that Algo was.
So that's what
Sand
what it
switch
was.
or Algo. And
Sand switch.
it probably still is down there now, or it does. They used to switch from the railroad. They'd park in there on that switch. Train passage as a bypass.
Yeah,
switch.
I think there's still a
I
switch
think
in there.
that's what it was
Yeah.
there.
Another thing I heard from talking to some people who lived in there in times past, here near your home, they say there's a rock wall.
Part of the old Fort Holmes.
Now, this is what I'm getting at.
Right, it was right up there by our home, and maybe some of the old rock there still.
Well, there's
Used to
supposed,
be.
the
You
Homer
could see
Roberts
part of
thinks
the
there
old
is.
Foundation. My father left it, and kept it. It was the old fort, or Fort Holmes. And then when he built the home up there, the old well of the fort where they put the prisoners down in, oh, it's a big thing. Deep, and it's, oh, it must have been 15 feet wide. Big, deep well. Well, they put those prisoners down in there, and that's where they stayed until they got ready to pull them out.
And they were still there when you left?
No, well, it was when we built our house. Then it got too dangerous, and
Yeah.
my father filled it up.
Was it rocked, walled, or anything?
No, just a big old dug well. I don't remember any. It was just a big old dug well.
Yeah.
And but the old Fort Holmes foundation was right out there in the yard, front yard. I remember very well. These rock part of it there.
Quite a lot of history took place down there, you know it?
Pardon?
A lot of history.
Yes, there
Now,
is.
was there, there was a Negro school across Little River from it.
Yes, yes.
Orville Paler lives in that house now, part of the house.
Yeah,
still.
well, he built it. My father built a new house there, but that's where the old nigger colored school was.
Yeah.
You see, we had a settlement in there, all colored,
Yeah.
and he kept one family of white people only. Now, my father's theory was that they got to keep these whites away, and they'd make that chalk beer, and you can't have that around there. These niggers would work, but he said you got to keep them together, keep whites away. He wouldn't allow any whites in there at all, cause trouble. And they'd come over to our old, it was more of a commissary is what it was, to feed the coloreds. And they'd come over every Saturday to the store, get their supplies. And of course, the first year, they'd figure out how much it'd take a week to run. Here they'd come every Saturday to the store to get their groceries. And they had, whether it was $4 or $5 or $6, $7 a week, what they'd go on. And they had to make it do. Of course, they had lots of fish in Little River, lots of game. They lived quite plentiful on that.
You had kind of a unique monetary system, I understand, tokens of some sort.
Yes. This old money, and I had it. I don't know what happened to it. I think my sister may have had those old coins. And I had a piece too, but it got away. It's kind of an aluminum money, nickels and dimes and quarters, half dollars and dollars. It's NB Bilby, we charity IT, and then had the denomination of the money on it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you couldn't give these colors money, cash, silver. They'd go uptown and they'd buy this, or they'd trade it off for beer or chalk. A lot of home brewed chalk beer and bootleggers. So that's why you had technically you give them so much script.
Yeah.
They could spend it there, and that's what they is good. and
Now, Bob said this Beemore clubhouse was Holdenville clubhouse, didn't he?
well, it was really down there on Bird Creek, and T.T. Godfrey built it or moved it down there, and they called it the clubhouse. It was, but it was on Bird Creek, and it's called the clubhouse. They all go down there, but really, I think it was on T.T. Godfrey's land. On a land that was formerly owned by this doctor
No.
here in town. Oh, I think he's retired. What was his name?
Johnson.
Johnson, yes.
Now, that's a different one. There is
Well-
one, there's one over there, and then there was one over here on Beemore Creek, which washed away.
Yes, there was a little one there at the mouth of Beemore. They
Yeah,
had a
that's
little
the one.
clubhouse there. Yes.
Now, this other one's the one Bob has in mind, isn't it?
I think so.
It-
This one
yeah,
down on Beemore.
it's over there on that
washed
Johnson
away.
place. Yeah, there's two of
That
them.
one stayed there quite a long time.
Did you ever hear this name, Hypertigga, Highpertigga, Hypertigga.
No.
It's got a little twist in there somewhere, Hypertigga. Hypertigga. It's a Negro. And in 1904, the newspaper stated that at Hypertigga, at the mouth of Little River, there's going to be a picnic. And went on to say that this is going to be on George Ewing Farm. There's a Negro in there, I guess. And it's going to be on August 15th, and all respectable white people and all respectable Negroes are invited. Hypertigga. I ran into a Negro down here on the street, and I asked him, "You know anything about that?" Yeah, he knows right where it was, and he told me where it was. I didn't have the card out then. I just stand there talking.
I don't remember that.
And he called that name, and so it's kind of a Negro symbol for something, a Negro settlement or something. I've just got a lot of notes here, such as buildings, here's an old elevator. It was near the depot location. And that was right this side of it, wasn't it, on the Frisco? Used to be a gin in there.
Well, Father built that gin, an oil mill.
Well, was there an elevator in there?
No, had just a gin, cotton gin, and then they later put in the oil mill to compress the cottonseed, and they had a tank up there, the pipeline. They pumped that cottonseed oil up there in tanks and ship it out. And but he'd make the cake, and he had a stationery. See, when that old store building burned, it burned everything of way of money and records that we had down there. And they had a stationery that said Bilby's Goody. That's what this cottonseed cake was. They had great big sacks, and they cottonseed cakes at the.
Well, now that's my own. I've located an elevator other than Frank Moore's. Was there another one here?
There wasn't any elevator there. Never was.
Well, that's my area there then.
There's no
Well,
elevator at all.
Do you remember another elevator here in town other than Frank Moore's?
No.
He will know that. I don't know why I got that.
He may know it, but the only one I know.
Do you remember where the baseball ground, where they used to play baseball? Of course, out here on the fairgrounds and all. But in back, this is before when you were the little fella. But I wonder if it might have existed till you were large enough to know. In 1904, they put a ballpark out west of town. Of course, west of town wouldn't be very far out.
Yeah, I was too small for that, because I was only born in 1901.
You don't remember where the ballpark was?
I was too small for that.
Cottage Hotel. You know Riley Autry, don't you?
Yes. And
Boy,
all the Autry.
He sure does know this stuff.
Yes, they lived out east of town here. They later sold the land to Jim Chapman.
Yeah, that's right.
Indian says, Jim Chapman owned lots of land.
Yeah.
Now Jim Chapman died.